Senator Paterson.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. Before I begin, can I welcome Senator Waters back in the chamber for a resumption of her term? And before I return to the substance of this bill, I just want to make one brief observation about the debate and the process on the previous bill that the chamber just considered. If there is one positive thing to come from that bill passing and the way in which it passed, I hope that it brings to an end the pious sanctimony that we often hear from the crossbench, from the Greens, from the Labor Party about gagging debate in this chamber, about bringing debate to an end so that a vote can be held. Because not once, not twice, but 3 times this chamber was gagged. Senators were prevented from making a contribution to the bill. In a debate that lasted no more than 1 hour this morning, when there was a long speaking list with many senators who wished to make contributions, they were cut short. In the committee stage of the bill, only 1 senator was allowed to make a contribution when there were many others who wished to. So I'm sure we'll never again hear from the Greens or the Labor Party or the crossbench if another bill is ever gagged in this chamber. Any complaints at all about process, any complaints at all about truncating debate, any complaints at all about getting on with the business of the chamber. I look forward to them consistently upholding the standard which they have displayed here this morning on this bill. Turning to the actual bill before us now, in a sense I was pleasantly surprised in a way when I heard about this private member's bill from the Greens today, because I thought it was quite novel. It's a red-letter day, Mr Acting Deputy President. We've found an area of government spending that the Greens don't like, because normally the Greens are all for government spending, and normally the Greens are all for subsidies. They love nothing more than collecting taxes from Australian people, as much of it as possible, if we allowed them to, and then them wisely dispersing that tax in the form of grants and handouts and subsidies to their favoured friends and their favoured industries. But we've found at least one area in which they think it's not a good idea to do that, and I'm hoping that that again is progress from the Greens. I hope we'll see them apply this standard consistently across the board to other areas. If they're so concerned about subsidies, as Senator Waters seemed to be in her contribution to the debate, maybe we'll see them extend this logic to other areas of subsidies. Perhaps they might even turn that area of logic to the renewable energy industry and the generous billions of dollars of subsidies that they've received over the years from this place. I found Senator Waters' contribution on the question of donations to be particularly ironic. Senator Waters' contention is that fossil fuel industries have benefited from the political process by supporting political parties and then receiving taxpayer handouts. Well, if they did and if they ever have, the renewable energy industry has learnt very wisely from them. They've followed them very closely and emulated their behaviour, including, by the way, Mr Acting Deputy President, with generous donations to the Greens. The renewable energy industry are among the very generous supporters of the Greens political party, and we have here in the chamber today the Greens advocating a position that is substantially to the interest of the renewable energy industry. Now, if we follow the logic deployed by Senator Waters in her contribution to this debate, there must be something sinister going on there. There must be some kind of connection between the support, financial support of the renewable energy industry, all the donations that they make, all the functions that they attend, all the support they give to the Greens party, and the position that they advocate in this chamber. In fact, the billions of dollars of taxpayers' money that the Greens political party advocates handing out to the renewable energy industry. My view is it would be best if we subsidised no forms of energy, if we allowed all forms of energy to equally compete on a level playing field. Unfortunately, in the last decade of climate policy and energy policy in this country, that has not been the case. The renewable energy industry in particular has done exceptionally well out of taxpayers, exceptionally well out of favourable regulation, which has aided their growth immeasurably. There's nothing, though, to fear from the Greens or anyone else watching this debate from the ACCC recommendations made to the government, which the government has signalled that it will proceed with. The government, one ACCC recommendation in particular, is that given the disaster of climate policy over the last decade in this country and energy policy in this country, it is necessary for the government to intervene to assist the creation of new dispatchable energy in the market. And what the ACCC recommends is that government underwrite in a technologically neutral way, in a technologically agnostic way, the creation of new dispatchable energy. Now, the ACCC doesn't specify what form this energy should take. It doesn't say that this energy should be coal-fired energy. It doesn't say that it should be gas-fired energy. It doesn't say that it should be nuclear. It doesn't say that it should be wind. It doesn't say that it should be solar. It doesn't say that it should be geothermal. It just says that dispatchable power, that is power that is available when it is needed, when it is demanded, and we know sadly the intermittent nature of renewable energy means that until it can be sufficiently firmed with backup batteries or other supports, it is not dispatchable. That this new dispatchable power does need to be created in Australia. And it needs to be created because Australians do like to know that when they flick the light switch on that the lights will come on. They do like to know when they hit the power button on the aircon that it will come on. They do want to know that their computer and their TV and their fridge and their microwave and their radio will work when they switch the power on. But without new dispatchable power generation being brought into the market, they can't be assured that that's the case, let alone be assured that they'll be able to do so in an affordable way. And we've heard loud and clear from many Australians the way in which they are struggling with rising energy prices, and they are absolutely laser-like in their focus, as we need to be in ours, on getting those prices down. Now, why is it that in the last decade no new coal-fired power station has been built in Australia? In 2007 was the last year that one was built. The reason why it is not because a new high-efficiency, low-emissions coal-fired power station is uneconomic. They, in fact, are very competitive on price terms. It's not because there are people who are unwilling or uninterested in building one of these coal-fired power stations, which would both lower the cost of electricity, provide on a reliable basis, and, of course, at the same time have the benefit of reducing lower emissions compared to existing coal-fired power stations. The reason why no one has built one is because if you're an investor in this industry and you're contemplating building a coal-fired power station, or in fact indeed any power station, you need to generate a return on investment over a 10 to 15-year investment horizon. You can't just invest for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. You need to have confidence that your investment will be able to be returned on a long time horizon, because there's very high capital costs involved. And so if you're an investor in this industry and you're contemplating your investment in a coal-fired power station, you have to take into account not just the policy settings of today, but the likely policy settings of the future. And perhaps if you were able to be sure that the policy settings of today would stay in place in perpetuity, then you would invest with confidence and you'd know you'd get a good return on your investment, on your outlay of capital. However, if you, like me, fear that one day in that 10 to 15-year time horizon, there may be another Labor government, there may even be another Labor government that relies on the support of the Greens in order to form government, or relies on their support in order to transact any business in this chamber, then you'll be thinking, uh-oh, the coal-fired power station or the gas-fired power station or whatever style power station that I might be willing to build might be hit by a carbon tax, it might be hit by an emissions trading scheme, it might be hit by an emissions intensity scheme, it might be hit with some other scheme that they'll come up with a different name but will have the same effect. Your investment will be damaged by a future Labor Greens government. And so people in business, people who invest in this industry, who provide capital to this industry, are prudently and wisely holding back. What the ACCC recommendation helps us do is overcome that political risk. It helps us overcome that regulatory risk. It says to the investors in those industries, you can invest with confidence, even if there's a change of government, your investment will be secure. And I think that's a really important signal that we need to send to the market, and an appropriate signal that we need to send to the market. Now, Senator, my friend, the learned senator from Tasmania, has been interjecting throughout this debate about how renewables are cheaper. Well, if that was only the case, that would be a wonderful thing. There'd be no need for a renewable energy target. There'd be no need for the Australian Renewable Energy Agency. There'd be no need for the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. In fact, I'm sure the Greens, with their new principled opposition to taxpayer subsidies, as enunciated in this debate, would be the first to stand up and say we could get rid of all these subsidies, because renewables are so competitive in their own right they don't need any assistance at all. I look forward to them bringing that bill perhaps in our next private senator's time to be debated. I hope that it is, because I'm sure that the Greens are being consistent and not just favouring one form of energy over the other. The truth is that the rest of the world is getting on with building high-efficiency, low-emissions coal-fired power stations and other traditional fossil fuel-powered power stations. They are building them because they are reliable, they are building them because they are cheap, and they are building them because, yes, they reduce emissions over the existing stock that they're replacing. There are, I'm advised, 400 new units in China alone being built, which are replacing old polluting plants, and they have plans for hundreds more. A recent IEA Clean Coal Centre report noted that China's embrace of high-efficiency, low-emissions technology had reduced its emission footprint by 450 million tonnes of CO2 per annum. The Greens tell us that their priority is to reduce CO2 emissions, but when presented with a viable way of doing so that is also reliable and cheap, for some reason they don't support it. Japan, as we all know, which is a pioneer in the area of high-efficiency, low-emissions coal-fired power stations, already has plans for an additional 45 coal plants that they're building. India has 600 plants planned and dozens of others across Southeast Asia, including in Bangladesh and elsewhere. And famously, even in the heart of Europe, even in emissions-conscious Germany, they are building their own new low-emissions coal plants, which have the great feature of being able to ramp up and ramp down relatively quickly to compensate for the intermittent nature of the renewable energies which they are also building. Uniquely, though, in Germany, the high-efficiency, low-emissions power stations that they're building are not just black coal power stations, of which we have some decent stores in this country, particularly in New South Wales and Queensland, but they're also brown coal-fired high-efficiency, low-emissions power stations, of which we have hundreds of years of source in my home state of Victoria, and we'd be very happy to see an energy industry investor enter the market to build a high-efficiency, low-emissions coal-fired power station using brown coal in my home state of Victoria. So I think, colleagues, we should take this bill for what it is. It is the Greens adopting their usual ideological approach to energy, their obsession with renewables at the exclusion of all else, their obsession in the face of facts and evidence about the emissions reductions that high-efficiency, low-emission coal-fired power stations can deliver, their obsession with apparently aiding an industry which has also been a generous political supporter of theirs, if we are to take them at their own words about what they believe the impact of donations are on the policies of political parties in this place.